Welcome to Behind the Wines, a freshly bottled podcast about Australian wine, the wines we love, and the people behind them. My mission is simple. I want to get down into the cellar with sommeliers, stomp some grapes with winemakers, and have chats with our finest critics, growers, retailers, and chefs.
Today's guest is someone who's quite literally worked across the world in some of the most iconic kitchens and wine programs before landing in Australia and launching one of the country's most trusted French wine importing business. Pierre Stock is the founder of PS Wine Selections, with more than 3 decades in hospitality, from Paul Bocuse in Lyon to Le Caprice in London and eventually Melbourne's iconic France Soir. Pierre has built a wine business rooted in authenticity, community, and unforgettable taste. Pierre, welcome to Behind the Wines.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So I'd like to take it all the way back. Now, you didn't really start in wine directly. In fact, I heard you almost became an accountant.
Yeah, that's right. Look, I was at school and I literally working in hospitality at about 15 years old. I was polishing glassware and I really wanted to go to a catering school, but my mom said, no, you've got to pass your grade 12, your BCE. And there is a good private school for you and it's about being an accountant. So I did a couple of years there, but I was actually terrible at numbers. So I quickly gave up and said to my mom, that's it, it's over. I want to go to catering school and that's what I'm going to do. That's what I want to breathe.
So what inspired you then to make the switch to catering school? And did you always know this world was for you?
My brother actually was working in a creperie, so when they do pancake, and he got me the job there as a dishy. And then step by step, I start making crepes, and then within 6 months, I was on the floor working, taking orders, and I just loved it. Just have the passion for it. That was me. I knew it was me, so that's where eventually I decided to go to catering school.
And so you earned diplomas in both kitchen and front of house, and then you scored a year at Paul Bocuse. What was that like?
So after my 3 years of catering school, eventually I got the offer, only 2 of us got the offer to go to Paul Bocuse. And I knew it was going to be really hard, but I knew that he would have opened the door to me. So you've got to do a full year. You cannot leave before. And it's extremely hard. It's a lot of hours of working. It's very military-like. But the great thing is you work with the best. You learn from the best mentors and you come out with a different way of working and a different way of breathing hospitality.
And so then from there you had stints in Paris and then 8 years in London working for Le Caprice, which also owned the Ivy, I believed, which was some of the most high-profile spots in the city at the time. What was those years like for you professionally?
To start with, I actually wanted to go to Florida, to Epcot Center. So because Paul Bocuse at the time had a restaurant there. So I went all the way to Paris to pass my interview and I actually missed the interview. My English was terrible. So they suggest me to go to London for 6 months and come back. So I moved to London there and I literally stayed there for 8 years. I never went back again. And in London, I actually managed to work for the best restaurant. I start to Quagdinos and then with Terence Conran, then I worked for Marco Pierre White, and then I ended up working for one of the best company called Le Caprice, which they own Caprice, Ivy. And again, it's a very similar way than Paul Bocuse runs their restaurant, except it's bistro style and not Michelin star.
It sounds like you were comfortable in London working for these great restaurants. So what was it that got you here in Melbourne?
It's always a lady will take you somewhere. And so I met my wife in London and we decided to have a kid. And both of us thought that there's no way we cannot raise a kid in London. It was a time where quite a lot of violence starting in schools. And we thought it would be better if we come back to France because I definitely thought Australia was too early for me to go there for my career. So we went back to south of France. We stayed kind of 2.5 years. I tried to set up a delicatessen. I had pretty much everything ready to go, the place to rent, all my suppliers. But the global economy in 2006 hit Europe. And from there, eventually, it was a disaster. Could not do anything. That's why we took the plunge to come here in Australia, in Melbourne.
Then came the chapter that really changed things, France Soir.
When I arrived in Melbourne in 2008, I were looking for a job and I had a multiple job offering. One at Jacques Raymond, the other one was at Tiguezard, and I actually decided to take the one at Vue du Monde. So I went to work at Vue du Monde for a couple of years. I set up the Rialto, and I was director of events. It was extremely great, very fast pace. Shannon Bennett is good at mentoring. He's got plenty of ideas, great man to work for. But with the young kids, I just wanted to slow down a little bit. And after 15 years of hard work, I really wanted to do a slow pace. So I was actually looking for a corporate job, maybe in hospitality. And while I was looking I needed a bit of cash. So I called Jean-Paul from France Soir and I say, hey, look, I just need a couple of shifts here and there. Can you help me out? Say, yeah, sure, come over. We'll find something for you. And within a year, I was eventually hasn't moved. Francois was on full time. And one day he just said to me, will you be interested to work on the wine list? I can see you've got a lot of interest in wine and that position is available. And I just literally jumped in it. And after probably another year, we start to make a business. He already had an import business called JPWS, but I really wanted to enlarge this and make it quite national. So we changed the name to Francois Wine Selection from 4 to 5 domain. We enlarged it to 20. We create an online business for retail, and the history is there. I must stay there for 10 years.
And then after 10 years, you've gone and you've created PS Wine Selections.
That's right. So the decision was not easy, I have to say, because I had an extremely great relationship with JP and till now. But because the company was starting to be too busy, was eventually the success. Basically, I had to make a decision really to say, well, I can't do both. I can't stay at Francois, do the wine list for 1,000 people coming every week with more than 50 suppliers. It's quite a very heavy pace. There's a lot of happening. And on top of that, working on the floor. And on top of that, trying to eventually set up a business. So that decision was hard. And that's when basically I left Francois and went on my own.
So you've built a strong network with boutique French producers and vignerons. How do you choose the wines you import?
So look, there's a multiple facet of the way I look at a portfolio. My portfolio is made of boutique wine, mostly organic and biodynamic. I like to work with wine that's got energy, very provenance of a terroir, which is quite important for me. They've got to have quite an interesting background and working with people that's very artisan. And that's the way I set up the portfolio. So I go to France every year. And every year I taste a lot of wine, and eventually if it's something really spark me, then I contact the winemaker and see if there is an opportunity to work together.
And so what makes a great French wine in your eyes?
For me, a great French wine is all about, as I said before, terroir. So the terroir is quite important. We want to see the expression of the ground, the expression of the climates, and also the expression of the grapes. And it has to taste good, of course. It's got to have some beautiful lifted character and quite perfume. But at the same time, it's got to be good value. I don't think it's necessary to spend overpriced for wine today.
So you have your style. Do you have any personal favorites?
I think my palate has changed over the year. Probably will still change in the next few years, I believe. But my palate is very much light to medium body with a bit of structure, quite clean. I like the wine to be digestible. I like the wine to bring me, as I said before, energy. And often that comes from biodynamic. It's hard to have a preference, but yes, I probably will drink. Well, I love the Languedoc-Roussillon. I lived there for a couple of years, so I really embrace that region. I think it's often where the best value come, and there's a lot of small new domain coming out of this region, which is definitely should be discovered.
So let's zoom out a little. What's some of the most notable shifts you've seen in the wine industry over the past decade and here and abroad?
Look, the wine industry constantly change, and as I say, will constantly change again, pretty much like my palate. But I think social media has the biggest part of it. I think today we quickly have an opinion on the wine just by the power of social media. So certainly we turn towards some of the wine we think be great without necessarily tasting them. And that's the power of social media. And also if you look at Shiraz, Cabernet used to be the king. Now Pinot has eventually took that places, as much as Burgundy was very hype for many, many years, with now the price rising, we're looking at very much like Piemonte wine from Italy. That's where you find some great example of perfume and light wine, but slightly cheaper than Burgundy. Sauvignon Blanc was also at one stage in the decade the king of the white grapes. Then they suddenly disappeared. I think was a mass production made of it, and people could not trust that. So they moved to Pinot Gris, and then now we're back to Chardonnay. So it seems like we're always constantly moving. There's grape appearing, there's grape disappearing. Today, I think we see a lot of Greek wine coming out. Can see, and I think, the wine comes with restaurant too, so French cuisine was time on top of everything, then suddenly was Italian, and it seems like there's a lot of Greek restaurant coming, so the Greek wine will come around, and maybe the next gonna be the Eastern European country. I believe that they've got a lot of things to offer, and we know barely nothing about it. On the other side, there's also the climate change. So everything changed. The climate's getting warmer. Some of the area have to change the way they make the wine, the way they plant the grapes too. So it's a constant change.
Yeah, so with all this change then, what are the biggest challenges for you importing and distributing French wine in Australia then?
Well, for the time being, the challenge is pretty much the transport, with Suez Canal being closed due to the pirates on the sea. Now all the wine has to go to the Panama, so eventually arrive in Brisbane and then arrive in Melbourne. From 7 weeks on the sea, now it pretty much takes 10 to 11 weeks on the sea. There's a lot of delay in France with a lot of strikes. People are battling to get empty containers. So eventually the containers goes around the world. They come here, they get empty, they get refilled in Asia, they get empty again in Europe and so forth. So today it's really hard. You've got to pretty much booked everything for 4 or 5 months in advance. And that's hit your cash flow. Then it takes quite a while eventually to sell them, and then to collect the money. That's another trouble.
There certainly seems those challenges, and in dealing then with consumer taste, and it makes it tough. Now, Pierre, something you're really known for, aside from the wine, is your love of bringing people together. Tell us about your passion for events and tours, and why do they matter so much to you?
For me, my business is not just transactional and making money by selling wine. I think what is important for me is to stay very simple and come back to our roots. And the hospitality background that I have, it's all about putting two people together and have a great journey. And so when I go to France and I meet the winemaker and I come closer to them, looking at sharing stuff with their family, going on the vineyards and listening to their passion, I want to do the same things when I come back to Australia with the people. And for that, I love to do wine dinners. It's all about sharing stories, sharing content, passion, and wine has to be shared together. So I love doing events. I do events in different restaurants. I do wine tastings. Sometimes I organize blind tastings. Some can be fun, it can be educational. And on top of that, I do the Grape Escape. The second edition is coming this year on the 5th and the 6th of September in St. Kilda Town Hall in Melbourne. We expect about 500 people per session, and that will be about 22 importers, and all the region of France will be represented. We've got some beautiful food stall, including the Entrecote restaurant. We have a DJ playing music, and the whole idea is to have great festivities, to have passionate people behind each stores to tell there's a story of a region, and for you to have a great understanding of what French wine is all about.
Yeah, no, that sounds like an event not to be missed. Now, I also know you take people on bespoke wine trips to France. I nearly went one-on-one myself, but COVID stopped that. Still looking forward for my chance to get on one, but what could people expect if they join one?
Yeah, that's right. So after so many demands, people always wanted to come with me in France on the wine tour. I understand, if you don't speak the language, it can be quite daunting to spend a bit of time through the vineyards. So I decided to do a tour where I only take 6 people, so it's quite a small group, and I take them to different regions of France with in different activities. So we do sometimes a primeur of Bordeaux, where I will take you to the best house, Mouton Rothschild, Lafite Rothschild, Figeac, Yquem, to name some others. I will also, from those luxury places from Bordeaux, take you to the picturesque town of Château Chalon in Jura, where you will meet the best producer in Jura in a very rustic way, among the cows, and the beautiful Sauvignon and Chardonnay. We do also sometimes take them to Burgundy, just to explain them exactly the way Burgundy works with different Côte de Nuit and Côte de Beaune. And we have some back ride through the vineyards of Pommard and Volnay. And it's a great trip to understand the appellation of France, the way it works, but also to be embraced by the culture, the great food and the great wine.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. Now, before we get into rapid fire, let's get a little philosophical. Are there any places or moments in France that really have shaped your approach to wine?
The region of wine in France is so diverse. That's what it's the most beautiful country for wine, from south to north to east to west. You totally transport in a different way with different wine. And what shaped really my understanding of wine is literally the terroir. It's not about anything else. It's the terroir dictate the wine.
And lastly, what advice would you give to young sommeliers or those of dreaming of starting their own wine label or import business?
My advice to every sommelier, and I'm not here to give any advice, but if I had one to give, it's to be curious. It's to be open. The way I always understood my job in a restaurant is to make people discover the thing that it's not well known yet. If it's to sell an expensive bottle of wine from something pretty well known, they don't need us anymore, because there is AI, there is ChatGPT, there is Google. We're not here anymore to point them to something quite hype. We're here to basically direct them to something really good value with a beautiful story. And maybe one day those wine will be so well known, we won't have to offer them anymore. We'll have to go and chase the next one. This is what I embrace every day, is to chase that particular winemaker that is not really well known, but has an amazing pedigree, and at one stage will be really well known by everyone.
Nice. That's a really nice way to end that. So now it's time for Half Glass Full, a fast and fun round of questions to get to know you, Pierre, beyond the wine list. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'm never ready for those questions, but...
Red, white or rosé?
Red.
Burgundy or Bordeaux?
Burgundy.
Most underrated region?
Languedoc-Roussillon.
Best food and wine pairing?
That's hard. There's so many of them. There's quite a lot of them, but let's say classic duck and Pinot.
Favorite bottle under $30?
The one I bring, Domaine de Genestas, Côte d'Iron, organic, GSM. That's excellent.
A grape you're obsessed with right now?
Chenin Blanc.
An underrated French producer?
Claude Labarthe-Sade.
What's always in your fridge?
Cider.
Go-to wine soundtrack?
I listen to radio, most of it, radio. So I'll go for FIP, the French radio, FIP.
Favorite wine memory?
99 Petrus, which I opened for a guest at France Soir, and they allowed me to have a little taste, and it was just beyond this world.
So that was the best wine you've ever tasted?
So far.
A place you'd return to, the place you return to in France again and again?
Jura, Château Chalon.
Guilty pleasure, wine or otherwise?
Vermouth.
And lastly, what's the favorite time of the day to enjoy wine?
5 p.m.
Well, it's 5 p.m. somewhere, isn't it?
It's always 5 p.m. somewhere.
Pierre, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for sharing your stories, your passion, and a taste of France with us.
Now, thanks, Brent. I think your project, the podcast, is great. And so I could not be more happy to actually be part of it.
Thanks, Pierre. To our listeners, keep exploring, stay curious, and as always, keep your glass half full.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Behind the Wines. A huge thank you for joining us. Your support means everything. Like a good wine, the best stories are meant to be shared. So make sure you subscribe on your favourite podcast platform, leave a comment, and let us know your thoughts on our socials. And go to our website for some more stories, special offers, upcoming events, and exclusive content. And special thanks to PS Wine Selections for your ongoing support. Until next time, cheers.